And we're back with the show. It's Gerald Glasser coming right back at you here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. Thanks so much for watching us. We truly appreciate it. If you get a chance, please make sure you go ahead, like, subscribe, do whatever you can to support us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. Plus, big shout out to the over 30 radio stations worldwide that check us out here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. If you want the latest news and trends in pop culture, you could always go ahead and hit us up today at Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. Also, as well, go ahead and check out our main site, popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. Well, if you would ask me what would be the number one video game film adaptation of all time, obviously Super Mario Brothers makes the list after what we saw from the tremendous performance that went on in this universal hit. But if you ever told me what was number two, not in my wildest dreams would I have ever told you that it would be Five Nights at Freddy's. But alas, Five Nights at Freddy's, probably with the biggest surprise weekend of the year for movies, with an estimated $80 million here domestically in the US and about over $150 million worldwide, closing in on right there for you. So, excellent start for Five Nights at Freddy's. And here today to discuss Five Nights at Freddy's, because I've actually seen it. Good man indeed. He is the madman from Toronto. He did get out of Toronto traffic to talk about Five Nights at Freddy's and a little bit of pop culture to head off his evening. He is a tremendous part of the coverage at Lakers Fast Break. Lakers Fast Break on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, wherever you get your podcast. But please follow today to better get to know the NBA. It is the Magic Man, Sean Grice. And Magic Man, great to have you here. Five Nights at Freddy's, I still cannot believe this, is the number two video game adaptation for a film of all time. And in a year where video game adaptations with The Last of Us and the Super Mario Brothers have wreaked havoc on entertainment better than any video game properties ever have, it's interesting to see now Five Nights at Freddy's hold itself high up to that stature as well.
I'm as surprised as you are, Gerald.
It's amazing to see. I just did not think so. And then I understand the base of games that have already been out and played. I understand that there's a group niche audience that have really enjoyed it over the course of years. But man, did they come out and support it? They're dressed up as the Five Nights at Freddy's characters when they're going to the theater. This was something I think out of left field that I didn't think anybody could actually figure out.
No, I agree wholeheartedly, Gerald. We can all understand the commotion and the to do about both Oppenheimer and Barbie. There was kind of a built-in fan base for Barbie and the whole mystique, but with Oppenheimer, and it kind of worked together. But yeah, great phrase, Gerald. Out of left field for sure. I love the point and click, the original game, the 2014 game. Played it for Windows. That's the one I really loved, and I think everybody goes back to the original one. But I never would have imagined that it would have this big of a cult following, Gerald. That surprised me as well.
It's based off of a similar format to what you would say, like a Five Nights at Freddy's concept of a Chuck E. Cheese. If you're familiar with the Chuck E. Cheese concept as far as old pizza joints, a once large pizza chain here in the United States where families would take their kids and they would interact with some animatronics, trying to make it like a smaller version of a theme park type deal. You had the arcades, pizza going on, and all that. It was kind of a great experience. So Five Nights at Freddy's is a horror based theme video game series based off that type of that concept where you have the old pizza place, broken down, it's torn, on its way to being torn down, or it's on its way to just abandoned. And the if you go ahead and you explore it, or actually you're a security guard is the idea. You're a security guard trying to protect the place from any vandals and hoodlums, and in doing so, you encounter that the things in this abandoned pizza place is not as docile as it normally would seem. That these actual animatronics are actually have the souls of children that were actually kidnapped and killed, either on the facility or right off there. Just this dark meaning with all this stuff, and it's just funny how it's resonated with teens. My youngest daughter absolutely just begged me to go ahead and check it out. The ironic thing about this magic, okay, I mentioned 150, it's actually $130 million worldwide, which is still a tremendous haul. The fact that it's day and date release with Peacock, where I caught it, makes it even more incredible. Not only is it probably the number one entity right now on Peacock, a smaller yet trying to go ahead and just trying to rise into the ranks of the streaming platform and the atmosphere, something that I actually had a lot of fun with talking about on this show about how bad that they've been doing. But something like this, which has been such a huge hit in the first weekend, not only for in the theaters, but also for Peacock, this has got to give Universal a huge boost coming off the big win this summer for them with Super Mario Brothers.
Absolutely, they got to be very pleased about this. And I have to say, I often, I'm not surprised, Gerald, when a video game turns movie is released and the critics actually hate it, because it's very difficult to try and review a movie based on off a video game if you haven't played the video game or you don't understand, like, you know what I'm saying. So even with all that,
Mhm.
there was still galvanization amongst all these FNF fans to come out in droves and support the cause.
Well, my daughter, as
Incredible.
I said, my youngest daughter is a fan and supporter of the FNF, and she enjoyed the film because it went into the lore. And the only thing is, the one of the reasons I want to go ahead and tell you this thing had so many, on the surface things working with it. The fact is not only that it was going to be a very popular movie for day and date on Peacock. The fact that it did so well in the form as far as out there in theaters. Fact is, it's a PG-13 horror film. And usually that's not a great sign for a horror film. You think, okay, it's going to be very timid. It's like a Disney movie or something. Like, it's just like if Disney makes a horror movie like The Haunted Mansion that just came out recently and that tanked, or Goosebumps on the Disney Plus channel, you don't think very much of it as far as it's concerned. And I'll tell you my thoughts here on the second, as far as the movie after watching it, but it digs deep into the FNAF lore, which, if you're a FNAF fan, this is for you. If you're not a FNAF fan, this will not be for you. If you're a horror fan, this movie with the jump scares tuned down to a PG-13 level, not only in the fact that they're tuned down, period, but the number is tuned down, period, than what you would normally have in a, let's say, a Conjuring or some other type of horror film that's going to give you the slashers and the just all the blood and the gore like most of the R-rated ones do. This PG-13. There's a lot working against them, but yet they found ways to overcome all that, and I think that's a credit to the fan base for FNF.
Absolutely, Joe. 100%. Decided to just support it no matter what. And as you said, like the fall, that's the surprising thing. Again, coming back to the original thought, is that their fan base is so huge and so loyal that I think nothing was going to prevent this thing from becoming a snowball.
I agree with you, my friend, and I will say this: if you're a fan of just horror movies in general, I would advise not to watch this film. And I understand, as if you're a horror film you fanatic, you understand that most of these horror films are rated poorly. Well, most of them to a T are rated very poorly, and I get that, and I understand that. But when it comes to FNF and this FNF, the fact that it's PG-13 for me as someone who's not familiar with the lore, I didn't play very much. I didn't. I watched the games on streaming a little bit, but I really wasn't into it. The security camera idea. In fact, we didn't even get to see much of the security camera concept, which is a great part of the video games. We didn't see that much in action here in the movie as well. And then you get to the acting, and then you get to the whole way it was carried out, PG-13 style, so everything was dumbed down. The fact that it looked like it was only filmed at a house and an abandoned pizza place, and that was it. I still don't know how they squeezed 25 million in production costs out of that when it seemed to look like it was made out of $25. Again, this movie to me, I'm so glad that my daughter enjoyed it, but I can tell you for me, it was the exact opposite.
You know what, Gerald? Being a fan of the video game, when I saw it, I went in with optimistic eyes, and then it was okay. It was okay. Uh, but like you said, I was in a theater that was packed, and I didn't think I'd be in a theater that was packed, Gerald. I thought everybody was there for to see another film, and then when I started seeing 15 people come in, another 10, I'm thinking, wow, this is going to be a big hit, and turned out to be. Now, like you said, Gerald, if you're a traditional horror fan, this movie isn't for you. Like you said, PG-13. By the way, just out of curiosity, Gerald, what's the last PG-13 kind of horror esque movie that cleared 100 million? That's
That's what I was.
interesting.
It's interesting because it is. I know I had the stats on it here as far as that was part of one of the articles I saw. Um, yeah, Little Monsters, Arachnophobia, The
Okay.
Haunting, The
All
Sixth
right.
Sense. You could probably say is probably one of the highest grossing. The Sixth Sense, Arachnophobia, which was back in the day in the '80s. That one also did very well for a PG-13 horror movie. I mean, those are probably Little Monsters. I don't know
Okay.
that didn't that's more a movie that did well in on video cassette in the
So
rental market
basically,
as opposed to.
a PG-13 esque horror slash thriller. It's kind of a needle in the haystack
Yes,
to.
because you're so limited on what you can do, unless you're Steven Spielberg, as I talked about, one of the greatest horror film directors of all time, because of what he's been able to get away with. His action movies and PG-13 movies seem like it's been, in a lot of cases, tinged on horror. I mean, the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. I mean, War of the Worlds. He was a way to get. He's found a way to get around some stuff with the censors that put stuff, that in his movies that would probably be in R-rated movies, but he's able to get the PG-13 slapped on it. But be that as it may, if you wanted to go, and of course Jurassic Park, that's a slasher film. People don't, huh? It is a slasher film. You look at it, it's the dinosaur picks off the victims one by one by one by one, like a typical standard slasher film there. But when it comes to seeing films, PG-13, you're so limited. The Ring was also a PG-13 film,
Right.
which that one scored really well at the box office. So, I mean, they're far and few between, Magic Man, especially ones that do well. But there, you can see the when you do that, Five Nights at Freddy knows its audience. They know its audience is 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That's they know their target audience. They know that you played the game as far as back in the day, and for anybody else in their 20s or early 30s that did play the games back in the day, yeah, that's great, but they're not going to follow it as religiously as those guys and gals that are doing it now, that are in their early teens. So that's why they had to go, I believe, for that PG-13 rating. Is they wanted to make sure they got in the theater the largest following possible of those who follow the games.
Absolutely, Gerald, because it is very popular amongst teenagers. I would say, anywhere from 12 to 16.
Cloverfield is a PG-13 movie.
I was I was wondering about Sleepy Hollow because I remember that was a Disney release as well.
Yeah, but I don't know. Is that really? Yeah, some sliced heads there, I guess. I
Yeah,
guess.
but you're right. You're right. Like we're kind of like anyway, splitting hairs.
Yeah.
That's the expression. But no, it's not really a horror at
Super
all,
8.
Gerald.
Super 8 with
And
JJ.
more of a mystery thriller
Yeah, I
to
guess so. But
me.
yeah,
Yeah.
it does have some horror elements in it. But yeah, that's probably
But
the
I felt what really helped the movie along as well, Gerald, was it was a very unique, diverse cast, and I thought that Matthew Lillard playing the antagonist was a very good choice. I happen,
Shaggy.
yeah,
Yeah, man.
I happen to like his acting chops.
Mhm.
He could play, and like you said, anything from Shaggy to a psychopathic
And Scream.
child murderer. Yeah, and Scream and in FNF as well. Very well put together. A nice mix of like youth and
Mhm.
experienced actors and new actors. I did haven't seen before, so I thought it was a very nice touch with the diverse cast.
So funny though that Josh Hutcherson, who you know out there as part of the Hunger Games movies, along with, of course, what we see there with the whole rest of the entire cast of the Hunger Games. And on the same day that his movie makes number one, when you see the Netflix number one movies that pop up on Netflix, guess whose movie is the number one movie on Netflix? His old co-star Jennifer Lawrence. So Jennifer Lawrence has the number one movie on Netflix, and he has the number one movie at the box office. So no hard feelings if you remember it from earlier this summer. So yeah, definitely funny and ironic how that worked out for both of these ex Hunger Games individuals. Not to mention the Hunger Games prequel that's coming out here in the not too distant future. But Five Nights at Freddy's, again, it is not to me, in my estimation, a good film. But then again, I'm not the target audience. If you are interested in being a part of the FNF universe, or if you have played the games and you have enjoyed the games, you're going to be excited about getting more into the lore. But if you're looking for cheap thrills, cheap kills, security cam footage, a ton of it, you're not going to find it here because they stood. I think that's probably what they're going to change, because now that the movie has done so well in its first week and they've already made back its entire production budget plus their advertising budget in this weekend alone, a sequel's going to come out in the next couple of years. There, I could think that they will work on more of the what made the game so special, and I'll think they'll work on that next.
Absolutely, Gerald. Considering the fact that there are at least 8 volumes, a lot of source material to work with. Yeah, and like you said, uh, the plot itself really didn't broadly go into a lot of the backstory, so that leaves it open to the sequel. As you duly noted, Gerald, it's happening. They're basically going to turn a profit here and try and milk the cow,
Oh, they already
which
have turned a profit in their first weekend, and that's definitely a sign that Universal's going to go ahead and open up the bank and back up the Brinks truck and open up the checkbook in order to go ahead and get
but
another one of these done.
like you said, Gerald, like you said, the fact that they understood that if we broadly change it to a PG-13 rating, we can get as many butts in the seat as possible. A lot of previous studios have gotten their hands on source material from video games, Gerald. Neither they're they're not faithful to the source material, or they decide that they can sort of take a shortcut, and you get movies like Doom, which was absolutely awful, Gerald. The
Yes,
video game was great, but the movie was awful.
I agree.
Conceptually, it was just a terrible, terrible, flawed project. This, on the other hand, as Gerald points out, a one-player uh, RPG, like basically role-player video game that turned into 130 million is incredible, and it only would have happened, as Gerald noted, it was broadly put out to the audience. So they didn't just go targeting that niche audience, which is what I thought the studios who did Doom and Mortal Kombat did, Gerald. They just tried to stay as niche as possible, whereas this studio broadened their horizons.
Absolutely, indeed. But once again, it is the Magic Man, Sean Grice. Truly appreciate him stopping by. Go ahead and check out what he's doing today at the Lakers Fast Break. Always there covering the NBA and Lakers and doing a great job of it. Plus, be part of our live watch parties as the game is continuing. You can go ahead and check that out at playback.tv/Lakers Fast Break. But before we head on out, my friend, there was a tragic death this weekend in the world of entertainment. For those that were alive in the 90s and watching television on the broadcast networks, primarily NBC, there was one show definitively of all others that seemingly connected the fan base worldwide, and that show was Friends. I didn't personally get into it, but I respected the actors and actresses who did. And one of those actors unfortunately passed away this past weekend in Matthew Perry. They found him in his home, regardless of the circumstances reported on by various outlets. We don't know, but he has tragically passed away at 54. When you hear something like this, Magic Man, who was so much ingrained as far as the 90s and early 2000s with the whole cast of Friends, what does that say as far as where we're at, and how does that make you feel? How does that hit you when a TV icon such as Matthew Perry unfortunately loses his life all too soon?
Yeah, Gerald, it harkened me back to when I was in the seventh grade, and my first girlfriend loved Friends, so I had to love Friends as well, Gerald. So, um, just remembering Chandler making us laugh uh, brought back like bittersweet memories of a show. Yeah, I'm with you. I wasn't big into it, but it was very popular, and I really enjoyed his roles as in films, Gerald. The whole 9 yards. I just watched again last night. Just brilliant comedic timing by Matthew Perry. Very sad. Um, there's part of a Canadian connection with him. His stepfather is Keith Morrison, famously of NBC News. Basically, did a lot of those Dateline documentaries. Went to a lot of other Senators games, so he's very ingrained in the hockey community in Canada as well, Gerald. Um, I, having never met him, I just through the grapevine just heard good things about him. He had his personal struggles, but outside of that, Gerald, I didn't hear anybody say a bad word about Matthew Perry, the man.
I know, my friend. It's just very, very sad to see what happened. It's a very tragic death, and I know that the world of television and pop culture lost a great icon this past weekend in Matthew Perry. But yeah, like you said, he was part of one of the most iconic television shows of all time. I mean, even today, it's still being released around the world. I mean, it was a great part of Netflix as far as them being able to showcase it in their days where they were really ramping up their subscription base. So definitely seeing the residual effects of the work that they did for many of those years and seeing them around the world. That I mean, it's still in syndication to this day. It's still being shown around the world to this day. So many more people in the years to come will be able to appreciate Matthew Perry's work for a long time to come.
Yes, Cheryl. Yes, it's all collection there. It'll be remembered forever. I hope hope new fans find the Friends entertaining as well. Again, just a big loss. My gosh, 54 is just really young when you hear about it.
That's my age, so yeah, believe me, that's what hit me the most is to see him, befallen at the same age I was. So very tragic indeed.
Yes, absolutely. Leaves behind quite the legacy, though, as you said, Gerald. Friends is, I mean, that's part of TV history. It'll go probably go down as one of the greatest television shows for as far as actors go. Wasn't that the first show where each cast member basically got $1 million an episode?
That is correct. Once they reached those heights, they got $1 million per episode. They all went and negotiated together, and they were able to go ahead and get that kind of deal. Which credit to them, they were able to get it and were able to prosper because of it. So that's something that even to this day they still feel the repercussions of that in a good way, because of the fact that this show is being universally syndicated around the world to a large and vast audience, whether it's through streaming networks or whether it's through other channels throughout the world. So yeah, they're, like you said, it's part of TV history. I mean, it's in that upper echelon of shows like I Love Lucy, Cheers, just MASH, just a couple, just a few shows that actually reach that upper level where they will be continuously played for decades to come.
Yeah, absolutely, Gerald. And there there have been a few shows that you thought would never go out of syndication. Roseanne, Family Matters, those kind of shows. But you're right. There's only a handful of shows that reached iconic status, and it was one of them. You've mentioned the other ones. Just a fantastic legacy, and again, trailblazers as well, $1 million an episode. Just goes to show that when all these young men and women got together on that show, nobody probably even thought they could even get close to that. And then as it turns out, sometimes life happens while you're busy making other plans. I use that a lot, but Matthew Perry was so fortunate to be amongst that peer group, and again, it's just very sad. And Gerald, it's a remind. I think what hits home for us is that it's a reminder of the fragility of life.
Yeah.
That we need to basically enjoy life and be thankful for the time that we're here, because tomorrow isn't promised, and that's often what it feels like, and it's hard for some people. Is you're here one day and then you're gone, like a light switch. It's over.
Here today, gone tomorrow. Here today, gone the next. And again, you couldn't have said it better myself. But Magic Man providing such great insight, and it is just so great to have you here talking about that. The legacy again of Matthew Perry, all the great work he did with Friends. He obviously had his struggles that he was very public and open about. He recently wrote a memoir, autobiography, talking about his struggles and issues. I don't know if that's what finally caught up to him, the years of abuse finally catching up to him. We'll have to see, have to wait and see what the autopsy report is. But yeah, unfortunately, a life lost all too soon. And I know that people were so excited to see that Friends reunion on Peacock, and they were so happy to see them back once again. And hopefully, they were going to go ahead and see more great stuff from those actors. But for Matthew Perry, it wasn't meant to be. We'll see what happens down the road. But his work, it's always good when your work is immortalized. I mean, that's something you and I don't really talk about that much, with our work with the Lakers Fast Break and Pop Culture Cosmos, and the fact that I've been on over 15, 1700 episodes of various shows and whatnot. I forget that this is also, because it's out there in the internet, that it's also categorized. It's also out there. So my life of the past 10 plus years, it's out there. You can see it, you can hear my thoughts. So anybody wanting to get a better idea about you or me can actually check that out. And that goes the same thing for Matthew Perry. If anybody wants to understand how he was as an actor, or they just take a look at all the interviews that he did over the course of the years, they can find out a little bit more about what they lost in Matthew Perry.
Yeah, absolutely, Jared. There's a large catalog of his iconography, whether from friends or, as you said, his memoir that he released. Uh, Great, great catalog of work by Matthew Perry, and as I've said before, um, he was. I always kind of felt that, if he just, it's Gerald, drugs and addiction behavior, it's such a struggle, and I always felt that Matthew Perry had that charisma, uh that we talk about, that it factor. Of all the young men and women on the show, I always felt that, if there were two breakouts, it was going to be either Jennifer Aniston, who obviously did, and then I always thought it would be Matthew Perry, rather than Matt LeBlanc. Uh, but just struggles alone can hold you back, Trail. But I mean, even with the struggles, like you said, look at that catalog of work he's left behind. It's a fantastic. It was a fantastic life, a short life, but a fantastic one for him.
Absolutely, indeed. But my friend, truly appreciate you sharing your thoughts on both Five Nights at Freddy's, which I didn't even know you caught. And then you like, did you catch Five Nights? You said, yes, I did. And I'm like, wow, so did I.
It's
And
the
that's
second. It's the second best point and click video game I've ever played, Gerald. That's.
what would you say is the first? Monkey Island?
Oh, that's actually my third. It's an old game, Wolfenstein.
Oh, Castle Wolfenstein,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, that's evolved into some really good games in the last decade. People need to check that out. In fact, I was playing it recently last month on Xbox Games Pass. The latest Wolfenstein DLC that you can go ahead and play for free or as part of the package on Xbox Games Pass. Absolutely. The Wolfenstein games have transcended through time. So, yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more and help solidify the first person shooter genre there. It's absolutely couldn't agree with you more. I remember playing Castle Wolfenstein from back in the day to what I've been playing it recently. So yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing what they can do with the Wolfenstein IP. But you're right, Five Nights at Freddy's, big hit, $130 million worldwide. That's just already Universal already has, since the writer's strike has ended, they already have the writers coming up with something new for number two. It's on the way. I don't know with the SAG strike going on if it will be filmed in enough time to go ahead and make it up. Well, then again, it looks like it was just a house and a pizza parlor, and
That's it.
and they filmed the park and then that was it. It seemed like that was the case, but that may not be so. It may come out this time next year. You never know. So we'll wait and see, my friend. But Magic Man, great to have you here. Any last thoughts before we head on out, my friend?
Absolutely. If you're not a fan of FNF, I'd recommend researching the original game. Try it out. Play it for about half an hour, 45 minutes. I think you'll actually enjoy it. And then after you play the game, please go watch. Please go watch the movie, because if you love the game, you'll love the movie. But if, as Gerald said, there's a caveat. If you're a horror fan, don't see the movie.
No. Uh, did you actually like more of the leaning on the lore than less on the deaths or the security footage? So you
Yeah.
liked learning more about the lore because that's something that's my daughter told me that's something that was kind of evasive even in the number of video games that's been released.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, Gerald. It was very sparse, like very cryptic voicemail messages that are, about less than 30 seconds in length at most.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was like very cryptic, very terse. And your daughter takes after her smart dad. That's an excellent point.
All right, and we better leave on that note while the getting's good on that one. But once again, it is Magic Man Sean Grice. He is there for you all the time at Lakers Fast Break, doing pre games, doing interviews. He is on the weekends, during the weekdays. He is such a great part of what we do, post game coverage. Then he's also part of what we do as well on Lakers Fast Break, of course, as far as playback a lot, during the games. So go ahead and check out Magic Man today, Magic Man Sean Grice. Appreciate everything that you've done for me today and tonight, my friend. Looking forward to some more great conversations. You're always welcome to stop by and talk pop culture, including FNF, as the kids say, right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos.